Good evening. I did a video 2 weeks ago. It was called the LiveWire ONE Motorcycle Real Cost of Ownership at 11,295 miles. And it generated a lot of interest, a lot of hits. It's my most popular video ever. And what it was a comparison of the LiveWire ONE, which my son Preston was riding, as compared to the MT10, which is a bike that he still has, doesn't really ride it anymore, but comparing the cost of the LiveWire ONE to the MT10. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a more detailed comparison with all of the cost, and I wanted to add two more motorcycles that we have in our garage, the Ducati Streetfighter and the Kawasaki ZH2. So we have all four of these bikes. I have two sons, Preston and Jack 3, and they both ride all the bikes, and I ride all the bikes. And so we have a very good idea of what it costs to own these bikes. Most bikes we hold on to for quite a while in terms of putting pretty high mileage on them. Preston has had his LiveWire now 7 months, and he just passed 15,000 miles a few days ago. So we have some experience. I want to talk about the real price comparison between these four motorcycles. The first thing you have to look at when considering the cost of a motorcycle is what the retail price is. So I haven't put any freight and delivery or tax on here, but for reasons of our comparison, we're just going to use the MSRP. So the LiveWire ONE is $22,799. The Streetfighter, this would be the V4S, which is the one we have, is $25,495. The ZH2 is $20,700, and the MT10 is $13,999. So the first thing, of course, we're looking at is what the bike costs to buy it. But there's other costs too. A main cost would be insurance. Now, the LiveWire ONE, the Streetfighter, and the ZH2, they're all costing me about $25 a month. And this is just what State Farm is charging us. Now, for some reason, the MT10 is $75 a month, which would be $2,700 over the 3 years. And I'm not sure exactly why, but Yamaha does have a problem with insurance. It's so severe that Yamaha Motor Credit no longer requires you to carry collision insurance on your motorcycle. And I think it's because things like an R1 or an R6 or an MT10, I think the motorcycles are crashed a lot. I mean, those are bikes that are, just ridden by guys that are reckless, and they crash a lot, and they're expensive to repair. So as a result, I double checked. That's what we're paying for the MT10 to be insured. So these are all costs, of course, over 3 years. Now, the next thing is we have oil changes we have to do on all these bikes. Now, the LiveWire ONE has a transmission oil change at 1,000 miles, and then another one at 10,000, and then a third one at 20,000 miles. Now, each of these oil changes is $320, so it's $960 for the 20,000 miles worth of oil changes. Now, the Streetfighter, they tell you to change the oil every 8,500 miles, but there's absolutely no way. When you change the oil at 5,000 miles, that synthetic oil is dirty and it's wasted. And we changed it at 600 miles, which is what they recommend for the break-in. And then every 5,000 miles afterwards would be a total of 5 changes for $1,425. Now, I might mention something else. I have a picture here. That's the Streetfighter with the kickstand down and oil leaking out. The Streetfighter has an interesting thing. It's true with all the Panigale V4s, is when you add oil to it, it takes 6 hours for the oil to show in the sight glass. So most of the Panigales out there, they're overfilled because the dealerships don't even know how to change it. I've had to change dealerships twice on my Streetfighter because I can't find anybody who knows how to work on the bike, even do something as simple as change the oil. I finally found a good shop at Ducati at Beverly Hills, and they know how to do it, but these other guys don't. That's why all these Panigales are out there smoking and leaking oil. It's not because of the bike. It's because the people servicing them don't know how. Anyway, the ZH2, pretty simple. Every 5,000 miles, $230. This is all for synthetic oil on all these bikes. That's $1,150. And then the MT10, it's $1,150 every 5,000 miles, then the 600-mile change. So that's the cost of the oil changes for these bikes. Next, we've got tires. Now, the LIveWire ONE, what happens? The tires go about 10,000 miles. So if you start with a set of tires and change tires at 10,000 and 20,000 miles, and you use the Michelin Road 6, it's $1,946. Now, the reason it's so high is because the Harley dealership charges $400 to change a couple tires to mount them on the bike. Now, I'm okay with that because the Harley guys seem like seasoned mechanics. They know what they're doing. If you don't do it right, especially tightening down the axle on the front forks, you can screw things up. I've had many mechanics screw it up. A lot of places you go, they put, the new guys changing tires, so to speak. And changing tires is important, and it must be done right, and it takes time. You have to know what you're doing, so we pay the money. On the Streetfighter, it's a little bit different because those tires only last 5,000 miles. They use the Pirelli Corsa 4s. You don't want to change the tire on the Streetfighter. It needs a stickier tire. It's made for it. The traction control is set up for it. And the Streetfighter is just going to cost you more in tires, no doubt about it. The same with the ZH2. It has exactly the same tires on it as the Streetfighter. It's a high-power motorcycle with traction control, and I just, I don't feel comfortable putting anything on it but the Pirelli tires. I mean, that's what it is. There's $2,505.44 for the ZH2. And on the MT10, it's the same two sets of Michelin Road 6, but it's less money because it costs a lot less to put or to do the tire mounting on an MT10. If you take it to a Japanese motorcycle dealership, you can get the tires mounted for, $200, maybe a little bit less. So that's what the bikes cost for tires. Now, there's another thing going on called a valve adjustment. Now, the LIveWire ONE doesn't have any valves, so it's not applicable. But the Streetfighter has a valve adjustment every 15,000 miles, and it's $2,200. And they basically have to disassemble the whole motorcycle. They even have to take the back off the bike. I mean, the bike is just torn down to nothing, and it takes a long time. And you have to have a mechanic that can do it right. A lot of mechanics can't do it right. And the problem is when you get this kind of major work done on your motorcycle, when you get it back, it may not be as good as the factory put it together the first time because they have to disassemble the bike and build it back. I mean, everything has to come off to that valve adjustment. Even the the thing, I forget what you call the back frame of the bike, that has to come off. Everything comes off. So it takes a long time. It's hard to find somebody that can do it right. Again, I would recommend Ducati Beverly Hills, but it's very expensive. It's time consuming too. It takes them days to do this once they get into it. The ZH2, it's a pretty straightforward valve adjustment of just a 4-cylinder valve adjustment at 15,000 miles. It's $700. The MT10 is the same thing. Now, the MT10, it says 25,000 miles, but at less than 20,000 miles, you can hear the valves tapping and ticking. So you want to get it done at 20. Preston's, I think, has about 25,000 on it now. He got it done at 20. So that's what it costs for valve adjustments. Now, besides valve adjustments, you also have chains and sprockets. Now, the LIveWire ONE has a belt. The belt is supposed to go the life of a motorcycle, or of the motorcycle. The only other bike I had with a belt is I had a 1991 Yamaha Roadstar. I'm sorry, 1999 Yamaha Roadstar that I put 70,000 miles on it, and it was with the original belt, and there was no problem. So, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but these belts really do last a long time. But on the Streetfighter, if you put in $200 for labor, it's $630 to change the chain at 20,000 miles. It requires special tools. You need special tools, like even a special stand, even to adjust the chain. It's a giant problem. The manual tells you not even to adjust the chain, take it to a dealer to have a dealer do it. But the Ducati is, it's a little bit more complicated. You're paying a little bit more extra. The ZH2, the sprockets are cheaper and comes out to $418. On the MT10, the sprockets are cheaper still, so it comes out to 20,000 miles. You put chain and sprockets on, it's $384. So that's the cost of chain and sprockets. Now next, we have the fuel cost. So assuming gas is $5.50 per gallon, which is the national average right now for premium gas, I'm sure it'll go higher in the next 3 years, but just using that for our calculation, LiveWire ONE, of course, there's no fuel cost. The Streetfighter is $3,182 based on 35 miles per gallon, which is about what it gets. The ZH2 is very thirsty. 30 miles per gallon is being generous. I've been as high as or as low as 21, 22. I mean, you're leaning into that supercharger all the time, and it costs a lot of fuel. But at 30 miles per gallon would be $3,666.67. And then the MT10 does a little better on the fuel economy, about 40 miles per gallon, $3,142. Now, Preston gets a little bit less because he's got a pipe and a flash and a bunch of other stuff. So, he's got a little more power, a little bit less fuel economy. But for our comparison, we're going to use 40 miles per gallon. Now, the LiveWire does not use gasoline, but it does use electricity. The national average right now for electricity is 14.92 cents per kilowatt hour. So the LiveWire ONE gets 5.51 miles per kilowatt hour. So the total cost for the 20,000 miles is $541.56. Of course, the Streetfighter, the H2, and the MT10 don't use electricity. So this is a cost LiveWire has the other bikes don't have. Now, lastly, after you have your bike for 3 years and 20,000 miles, you're going to go and sell it. So I'm assuming for part of this presentation that you're going to get basically 60% of what you paid. So it's going to be 40% less than the retail. So that would put the LiveWire ONE at $13,679, the Streetfighter at $15,297, the H2 at $12,420, and the MT10 at $8,399. So that's saying that's when you go to sell the bike after the 3 years of 20,000 miles, that's what you're going to get. So what we're going to do for our calculation is we're going to put in all the money we paid for the bike to use it for that period of time, and then we're going to subtract out what we sold the bike for at the end, and that's how we're going to decide which one is the cheapest motorcycle. So if you do all the calculations, the cheapest motorcycle to own for 3 years and 20,000 miles is LiveWire ONE. Big surprise, huh? LiveWire ONE, after the resale of the motorcycle, costs you $13,461.92 to go the 20,000 miles. The Streetfighter costs $21,001.30. That kind of makes me laugh because everybody says, well, for the price of a LiveWire, I could have a Streetfighter. Well, no, you can't. Okay, it takes a LiveWire ONE and another $8,000 to get into a Streetfighter. But anyway, I ride my LiveWire ONE a whole lot more than I ride my Streetfighter. I can tell you right now. That's another video. And then the H2, I should say ZH2, is $17,620 was the cost, and for the MT10, it was $15,313. So it was about $2,000 more money to run it than the LiveWire. Now, you can change your own numbers and you can do your own things. You can actually, if you want, you can put together a spreadsheet like I did and put all these numbers in there and calculate it out. But that's what I came up with, and I can tell you just from hanging around the bikes that the LiveWire is a whole lot cheaper to run, requires a whole lot less service. And I can also tell you, at least Louie in Canoga Park, the guy that's servicing my LiveWire, he's like off the chart in terms of service. He calls me up and tells me that he thinks I'm due to come in. After I got the new LiveWire, he called me up about a week later and said, I know you got 1,000 miles on the bike, bring it in for service. I bring it in, he loans me another bike, another LiveWire for 3 hours while he's getting mine fixed, or maintenance for the fluid change on the transmission. So I mean, that's like crazy service. Never got that anywhere else. And of course, the best part of this whole thing is that the LiveWire is 83% less CO2 over the MT10, which out of these four motorcycles gets the best gas mileage, or out of the three. So it's a giant reduction in CO2. Now, I continue to be frustrated with LiveWire because they do not talk about the environmental impact of the LiveWire ONE on their motorcycle. Tesla's always had it on the front and center of their homepage for over a decade. LiveWire does also, all they talk about is their retail price, and if there's a tax credit, they'll put the tax credit on the webpage, but they never talk about the fact that the bike is actually less money when you go to ride it. The more you ride the LiveWire, the more money you save. This is just, I mean, I ride a lot more than 20,000 miles in 3 years, but I'm figuring, hey, that's the average person, what they do. For the average person, it's a savings. For someone like myself, it's a big savings. And when you go to the Tesla website for last decade, when you click on the price of the car, they always have the price of the car, and then they have an adjusted price after fuel. I mean, talking about the money you save on gas. So I don't know why LiveWire can't just copy what Tesla's doing. In my mind, it should be lead with the environment, follow up with the fact that it's the lowest cost, and then end it with, hey man, this is a great motorcycle that's fun to ride. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you some more detail. And if you're going to buy a bike and you're thinking about going electric, you owe it to yourself to spend some time, do a spreadsheet, and see what these things really cost. Thanks. Have a great evening. Bye.